Monday, September 13th, 2021, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today, we're going to look at the day I realized that our monetary system was a Ponzi scheme. And it was around the year 2003 or 4. I was still working in the city. I had started stacking gold and silver already. I bought my first gold coins, Krugerrands, back in 2002. I bought my first silver coin in 2003. And yes, I went out for lunch basically one day. And usually in the city, you went out for lunch to get lunch, not to go and sit down and quietly and have a nice lunch. You just went to get a sandwich or whatever, something fast, and take it back to the desk, because we always had to be there trying to generate commission for the bank or for the brokerage house. So yeah. As I walked back, and this was Broadgate Circle, that's where the ABN AMRO bank office was. It wasn't 199 at the time. That hadn't been built. It was a smaller building on the other side of the road, for those of you who know. And I bought my lunch. I got out of the place where I bought my lunch. It could have been Pret a Manger or someplace like that. And I put one of these, a 10-pound note, back in my wallet. But as I was putting it back, and at the time, the 10-pound notes were bigger. As I put it back, I noticed the Bank of England sign up there, Bank of England. And then I noticed what was written underneath here. And I'd never really thought much about looking at the Bank of England note, or any other note for that matter. People always consider, well, this is money, that's it. And we don't ask questions. That's what the lesson, I would say, of that day. For some reason, I asked a question, and I read under the Bank of England note, it says, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £10. And I thought to myself, what are they promising here? And I did more research later on, and I found out, of course, that prior to 1914, prior to the outbreak of World War I, you could take one of these, even though I think the highest denomination back then was £5 in 1914. But you could technically take one of these, and you can see here the promise to pay the bearer to the Bank of England or any other bank, and redeem this, convert this, just like countries could until 1971, August 15th, 1971. They could convert this note for gold. And for each pound, you'd get a sovereign, which is just under 1/4 of an ounce of gold. And eventually, I called the Bank of England, because that's the kind of individual I am. I called their press office, and I asked the guy there why they had that promise and what they were prepared to pay me in if I went to the cashier at the Bank of England, because the chief cashier signs on the note as well. That so it's the chief cashier that promises that. And his answer was that all this meant was that you could take a damaged or an old note, and we would exchange it for a new one. And when he said that, I asked him, so why don't you write that on the note? We'll exchange an old damaged one for a new one. He didn't have an answer. And then I realized that, yeah, this is a promise to pay nothing. Yes, we can pay each other with these promises, but it's just a Ponzi scheme. And at the heart of this system, you have to look at what it was in the past. And that's why gold and silver is so important. This is a substitute for gold, as Rafi Faber from Endgame Investor has been saying lately. I'm going to put a link below to his YouTube channel. He's just starting out. I recommend you watch Rafi Faber. So yeah, this is just a substitute for gold. And that's the only thing you need to know. The more of these they create through inflation of the money supply and credit, the more worthless it becomes versus gold, because gold cannot be created and found as easily as the banking system can create these. And yeah, that was the day I learned in 2003 or 4. I don't remember the year exactly, but yes, I always remember that day. I was walking back to the office and putting this, I think I must have given a 10 to 20 pound note, and then I got some change plus this, and I was putting back in my wallet. And in the back of my mind, I knew that something bad would happen to the system. And it did a few years later in '08. And it's kept happening like last year, and like it probably most likely will very soon, even though no one really is talking about this. And then there was a time, maybe a few months later or a year later, I went to the Libertarian Alliance in London. They were holding an event somewhere, and they had speakers there. And actually, Boris Johnson was one of the speakers. He was interesting. He was the same, a waffler. But there was a guy there, Samuel Britton, who I think passed away maybe last year or so. But he was a famous economist, Keynesian, of course, or maybe he's still alive. I don't know. His brother passed away. He was a politician. But after the talks, people mingled and were talking to each other. And I went up to Samuel Britton, and I think I took a 20-pound note. And I asked him about that, and he looked at me like, you're crazy. Why are you asking this question? And I said, well, the system is fragile because this is a promise to pay nothing. And he dismissed me basically and walked away. I was polite to him. I was just trying to start a conversation and a debate about it. So just before I look at the markets, and yes, the lesson here is if you think something is not right, ask questions and dig into it. And that's what I've done. That's the only reason why I'm here doing these videos now. After that, I started reading more and more about this system. So last year when this crisis started, I asked questions too. And I have to say, the powers that be, they hide things in plain sight, right? Even though they're trying to get rid of cash now, it's still out there. So I think it was back in March when everything kicked off last year. And all I'm going to do is ask you to go to this page. I'm going to put a link to it below in the description and read about HCID, or high consequence infectious diseases. And this is from the UK government website. And I want you to scroll down to the status of this disease. It's very clear there under contents. You might want to read, I think, the whole thing, because it will show you that this crisis, just like this banknote, is not real, and the government is telling us. But of course, the media, the politicians, the economists, the people in science, they're playing another agenda. The people in the City of London, they don't tell you about this. So there you go. With that, let's quickly look at where the markets are this morning. It's 8:03 a.m. London time. Spot gold is basically unchanged at 1787.50. Yes, on Friday, they drove gold lower as usual during US hours and sold it down to the low of the day late on Friday. And this morning, we've been up to like 1794, but it's drifting back down. It's pretty much unchanged though from that close on Friday. The low has been 1783.60. Silver is down 9 cents or a third of a percent at 23.64. The high's been 23.84, the low 23.61. The Dow future is up 168. Yes, last week was the worst week for the stock market since February. So we're seeing a little bit of a rebound right now. Dow is up 0.5%. NASDAQ 100 futures is up a third of a percent. S&P is up just under 0.5% as well. It's up 20 points. The FTSE is up 36 points, just above 7,000. To the currencies, we've got sterling down about 0.2% at 138.07. The euro is down 0.25% at 117.82. The dollar is up 0.2 versus the yen at 110.14, and the dollar is up 0.1 versus the yuan at 645.09. Aussie dollar is unchanged at 73.52 actually. The dollar is down 0.1 versus the Canadian dollar at 126.75. And the Kiwi dollar is down 0.1% at 71.03. So to the commodities, WTI crude, we're back above 70. I mean, we went down to 62 recently. So now we're up 0.75%, trading at 70.02, so just above 70. High grade copper is down 0.5% at 442.65. Natural gas is down a little bit here, down 0.2%, back below 5 at 4.94. To finish off, the 10-year yield is basically unchanged at 1.34%. So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to this channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, and all these other platforms below here. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.